like painting techniques.
When did you start thinking about the relationship of space to time?
Well, as soon as I thought about either one, because there's the obvious relationship, of course, how long does it take you to get from here to here?
Right. At that point, when you were thinking in terms of space travel, whose work were your what were your references in?
Well, from childhood, I used to read amazing stories, science fiction. I read Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells still stands up pretty good. I reread The Time Machine not long ago. Interesting.
What other writers do you read? I know you read a lot of science fiction.
Yes, quite a bit of science fiction. I read spy stuff, Le Carré, Forsyth, Len Deighton. I've read a lot of doctor books. It's a regular genre, as you know.
Yeah.
Very, very, very popular. The Making of a Surgeon and Dr. X. Started with Dr. X.
Yes, I know those.
So those are largely read for information. And I started out to be a doctor.
You did? I didn't know that. Was that what you studied at Harvard?
No. I started out in Vienna because they didn't require any pre-medical work.
Hmm.
Well, it's just as well it didn't work out. So medicine has always been one of my interests. Hobbies, you might say.
Well, I remember seeing you on Saturday Night Live once. Mm-hmm. Very strong when you said, "I'm the doctor," and the TV camera came in on your face. But I keep trying to, sort of press over to this area, and I don't really know how to get to it. You obviously feel that things are in a bad way, politically, or in the world. I use the word politically very generally. I don't mean in terms of parties.
Disastrous way.
To what extent do you think it's possible for us to save ourselves?
An impossible question to answer. Who do you mean by us? And who do you mean by ourselves? I don't subscribe to the idea. I don't subscribe to the idea that there's any such thing as human nature, humankind.
Right.
And I feel very little even empathy with most people. So when you speak of a we, it would be a pretty small we. Most we's you can include me out of, I feel. But Korzybski, it's one of the important things he points out, that not to use generalities, we, the American people,
right.
The consensus of informed opinion, oh wow. Well, someone says the consensus of informed opinion, you know you're going to hear some real nonsense.
And yet your books are all about survival.
That's about survival. Well, all right, there's one possibility would be escape from the planet for a few people.
Right. Do you think of this escape literally or in terms of altering perception?
Well, they're the same thing. If you alter your perception, then you have altered your location. Your space-time location.
Are your books in any way methods for altering perception?
As far as they can be.
Yeah. How far do you think literature can work in that area?
Well, that's it, as far as it can go, in the same way with painting.
Do you think they work in the same ways?
Well, no, not quite the same way.
It's a little what I was trying to get at the difference.
Just not quite the same way, but Gerald Wilde said that any painting of consequence you can read. In other words, there's a story in it, not a message. Not a message, but a story. And in the same way, writing, the more visual, the better, I feel. So they're both attempting the same thing.
Well, I guess one final question. Is The Western Lands your final book, or are you writing?
Oh, I'm working on another. I'm writing one about Jesus Christ now.
You are?
Yes, indeed.
Oh,
a lot of notes.
My mouth is open in astonishment. Well, thank you very much.
Well, I'm sorry we don't have time to get into Jesus.
I'd love to. Do we have time? I was signaled.
Well,
Oh, good.
yes.
Okay, tell me about it.
Well, to begin with, it's neither the rationalist approach. People are saying now that Jesus didn't exist. It was a whole retroactive construct of the church. I am convinced on aesthetic grounds that he did exist because the whole gospel has the mark of one man talking, just as Shakespeare's plays do. Whoever wrote them, it was written by one person, Shakespeare. And I'm convinced personally that Shakespeare wrote them. And the same is true of Jesus. Now, did he perform any of these miracles? Undoubtedly, he performed some of them. But that is not so remarkable. Any good magic man can cure the sick sometimes. Can't win them all. And many of them can cast out devils, particularly if they installed the devils in the first place. And I've seen some very impressive weather magic. There's quite a few practitioners who can do weather magic. Yeah. So he can do anything so terribly remarkable. Yeah. But the church then set up this miracle monopoly, only by authorized personnel, by church personnel. Right. So that was one result of Christ, this miracle monopoly. The Buddhists take a very, very dim view of miracles and healing. They say if you can, don't. Mm-hmm. First place, you're upsetting the natural order with incalculable long-range consequences. And two, that the healer is often motivated by the most deplorable self-glorification and vanity.
Do you think that was true of Christ?
Well, none comes to the Father except through me.
Yes, I see.
I think there's a degree of self-glorification involved.
Well, talking about morality, what do you think has happened? There seems to be a huge rise in institutionalized morality in the United States.
Well, symptom of fear, dislocation.
Right.
They don't know what's happening or where they are. They want something they can hang on to, I suppose. But remember that there's a terrific gap between doctrine and practices built into the Christian religion.
Yes.
Love your enemies and all that, which is biologic suicide if put into practice. So no one puts it into practice or attempts to do so. So you have this gap between what people are supposed to do and what they actually do. The same, I think, is true of Mohammedanism. Less true of Buddhism than of any of the other major religions.
Well, Buddhism isn't theistic. It's not theistic. I mean, it's not about obeying one thing or one code.
Well, yes. Well, of course, then there are many schools of Buddhism.
Right.
So
Jesus Christ, in a way, what's he like in the book? I mean, is he someone who is trying to control?
Well, I don't think that's exactly. He wouldn't put it that way. But he does say, none come to the Father except through me. In other words, he's the only one. Well, didn't Muhammad say the same thing? There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet, one and only. Well, in my story, the Christ virus gets loose from the Museum of Extinct Species. So you have hundreds of thousands and millions of people going around saying, I am the way, none comes to the Father except through me, and getting inherits and even performing miracles. After all, special effects have come a long way since Christ, so...
What about Judas in the book? How does he come in?
Who?
Judas.
Well, he hasn't come in yet. I hadn't thought too much about it, but I'll get to him.
Sounds great. Oh, well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Pleasure.
Yes.